Does body language and the evidence prove that the World Health Organization helped China cover up how COVID-19 escaped from a virus lab in China? Find out next. Welcome back to the channel, Shakers. Derek Van Shake here. First, this is about the Chinese government and the World Health Organization, not Chinese people. When I first heard this possibility that the virus escaped from a lab, I thought it just can't be true. It sounds like something from a movie. The Chinese government dangerously manipulating viruses in their Wuhan lab without proper safety precautions and protocols. One of the scientists accidentally gets infected and the virus escapes from their lab and infects people in the city of Wuhan, China, and spreads throughout the world, infecting millions. It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. Did this really happen, and did the World Health Organization know about it and try to cover it up for China? We're going to piece together the evidence along with breaking down body language to finally expose the truth and the actual origins of COVID-19. Now, let's get started.
At the start of the outbreak, this is where China directed the world's attention, suggesting that this Wuhan seafood market was the source of the novel coronavirus outbreak. U.S. intelligence officials tell CNN they are investigating another possible source, that it possibly started in a Wuhan lab.
That's right. All that talk you initially heard about the Wuhan wet markets and people getting infected by eating bat soup doesn't seem to actually be the case.
Chinese officials pushing back, the foreign ministry spokesperson dismissing that the virus started in a lab. Yet, it is the same spokesperson who last month tweeting that it might be the U.S. Army who brought the epidemic to Wuhan.
It comes from China.
The latest debate over the virus's actual origin coincides with a damning Associated Press report. China sat on critical information for 6 full days, from January 14th until January 20th, downplaying the outbreak in public. As hundreds of millions traveled leading up to the Lunar New Year holiday, the Wuhan Health Commission maintained that the outbreak was controllable and preventable and that this was not contagious. It was not until January 20th that leading health officials acknowledged publicly cases of human-to-human transmission.
Officials there now confirm the coronavirus has been spread from human to human. Then over the weekend, the number of cases soared, extending to Japan, South Korea, and Thailand.
Remember, when the rest of the world started to hear about this new virus, no one really knew how you would get the virus. But China knew, and they were omitting, distracting, and downplaying all of it. Even when it came to the most critical of critical information, how the virus is spread.
Wuhan ophthalmologist Dr. Li Wenliang was reprimanded in early January by Wuhan police, accused of spreading rumors, warning them of a SARS-like illness going around. Instead of listening to his warning, police silenced Dr. Li and other whistleblowers. He died of coronavirus in early February.
China is governed by the Communist Party of China, so they're communist. So if the government doesn't like what you said, even if it's factually true, they can punish you. Now meet World Health Organization Director General Tedros. But he's actually not a medical doctor, yet he's the top guy at the WHO. This is a January 30th press conference, and at this point, they obviously knew China was hiding how this virus is spread and punishing those who spoke up about it. Now listen to what Tedros says here and see what you think.
The Chinese government is to be congratulated for the extraordinary measures.
Yes, he is congratulating China. For what? He should be reprimanding them for hiding how this virus is spread for so long, and for China punishing doctors for raising the alarm about it.
Combat the spread of rumors and misinformation.
Let's rephrase that. China is combating the spread of the truth and information. Yeah, China is doing the exact opposite of what he's saying countries should do.
In many ways, China is actually setting a new standard for outbreak.
Well, that's one way of putting it. I really hope Tedros just misspoke and it wasn't a Freudian slip, because that statement doesn't sound too good.
Their deaths listed as severe pneumonia, despite suffering from coronavirus-like symptoms. China's reported numbers of coronavirus cases and deaths does not add up.
Now watch what happens when a top WHO official, Dr. Bruce Aylward, is asked about Taiwan. Remember, Taiwan is a little island off the coast of China, and they consider themselves independent of China and not communist. But China's basically in denial and doesn't recognize Taiwan's independence. You're not going to believe what happens.
Would the WHO consider Taiwan's membership? Hello?
Yes, this actually happened.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah. Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
That's right. Number 2 at the WHO pretended he didn't hear her question. And then when she goes to repeat the question, he tells her to skip the question he claims he didn't hear.
Let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
Let's skip that question even though I didn't hear what the question was. Does he really expect anyone to believe that? And did you notice his arms went crossed in defensive body language and he began to nervously rock in his seat?
Right, because I'm actually curious on talking about Taiwan as well, on Taiwan's case.
Yes, this number 2 person at the WHO hangs up on her for even just politely asking health issue questions about Taiwan. It's apparently because the WHO has a strong alliance with China.
We decided to give Dr. Alward another call to follow up.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
That's right, he quickly ends the call so he doesn't have to talk about Taiwan and calls Taiwan China.
We've already talked about China.
Exactly the way China would have wanted it.
Welcome, everybody, to this press conference to hear the findings from the WHO-led international expert mission with the Chinese government. Dr. Bruce Aylward.
Now, the same guy in the video conference we just saw, Dr. Bruce Aylward, comes back from visiting Wuhan, China. And what do you think he's going to say about the job the Chinese government is doing to combat the virus?
Who led the mission and is fresh off the plane.
Very, very engaged. Case finding, contact tracing, social distancing, movement restriction. China know how to keep people alive. Super committed, systematic, impressive, pragmatic, containment, differentiated, tailored, pragmatic. A phenomenal collective action, passion, cooperation, commitment, interest, collective action, turbocharged data, science-driven, agile, phenomenal rigor, contacts, not catch, down faster, striking, aggressive, practical, mobilization, zero cases. China are the only ones, the experience of China, reinforcing collective action, knew the disease 2 meters apart, very, very fast, rapid, pragmatic, disciplined, regimented, organized. If I had COVID-19, I want to be treated in China.
In China?
Dr. Bruce wants to be treated in China with that laugh, similar to how I want a vacation in Antarctica. And not surprising to anyone with even an ounce of common sense, China was manipulating the data to make it seem to the world that this virus was not as contagious and not as deadly as it actually is. Now listen to what Dr. Bruce says when he's asked about how oddly low the death rate and infections were coming out of China.
They're really good at managing really complicated disease on big scale right now. So I would not have a false sense of security in the numbers.
That's right. He's claiming China's numbers were so oddly low because China was just doing such a good job containing the virus and keeping people alive. But do you really think he actually believes that? Did you catch his body language towards the end there? Watch again.
I would not have a false sense of security in the numbers.
Yes, right after he said that, he crosses his arms in defensive and self-comforting body language in a self-hug while immediately looking away. He's not confident in what he just said and may know the real reason why China's reported numbers are so oddly low and would therefore be helping China directly or indirectly cover up the truth.
There's reports that China's changing the way that it is reporting the figures, in that unless people are showing symptoms, they will not be classified as confirmed even if a test comes back positive. What are your thoughts on that? And also secondly, looking back at the effusive praise that's been given for China.
Now Tedros is being questioned for all the odd excessive praise the WHO has recently given China.
Has the Chinese government approached...
As the question is being asked, Tedros tries to get someone else to answer the question, and when he knows he's going to have to answer it, he gives a nervous adjustment of his jacket, showing discomfort with the question. And notice what he does next.
The WHO to ask it to stand up and say that China is doing a good job here? Was there pressure put on this organization to say those sorts of things.
That's right, he brings his hand up to cover his neck for pretty much the entire length of the question, while he was also stroking the side of his face with his thumb in self-comfort. And the stroking of his face is soothing in a situation of stress and possible danger of being caught in a lie. And if he was being thoughtful and was deciding on something, his hand would have been on his chin. Now, when he responds to just that question, notice how many times he says the word truth.
Did the Chinese government say to the WHO that it should give it praise? Because I've noticed a few organizations have done that, and I know how important it is saving face in China.
It's the truth. We should not fail to tell the truth. We should tell the truth. And that's the truth. It was not. It is not. That's the truth. The whole truth. Again, the truth. We don't say anything to appease anyone. It's because it's the truth. It's true. Let the truth speak for itself, because it's the truth. And telling the truth, and we're telling the truth, and we will tell the truth.
Yep, 14 times within just a couple of minutes of speaking. Overusing the words true and truth are very classic of a liar. He's convincing and not just conveying. Since liars know they're lying, they naturally feel like they're not being believed, so they'll subconsciously overcompensate by telling you how it's the truth. However, it's also suspect when they overemphasize the word truth, such as the whole truth, nothing but the truth, my truth, the unbelievable truth, which he did a good amount of, while also giving off out-of-place smirks and smiles, which appeared to be duping delight.
We should tell the truth. And that's the truth. Let the truth speak for itself.
It does appear he was lying, and pressure seems to have been put on the WHO by China to say favorable, inaccurate things about how China was handling the pandemic.
When the World Health Organization speaks, we listen. Question is, should we?
They seem to be very China-centric.
President Trump thinks not, is considering defunding them.
Put a hold on funding WHO, World Health Organization.
On January 14th, China is still telling the WHO they have not seen human-to-human transmission. That day, the WHO echoes China's message. Also that day, the WHO reports Thailand gets its first imported case of COVID-19. 2 days later, January 16th, the WHO reports that Japan has its first imported case. But it isn't until January 19th the WHO actually acknowledges what had become obvious to many experts. Human-to-human transfer was happening. 2 months later, the WHO would declare the pandemic.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
January 22nd, Wuhan, 1 day from any form of lockdown. China is in crisis mode. The WHO praises China. Yet, as we now know, for the previous 2 months, China has been silencing its doctors, stonewalling its people, and lying by omission.
The problem isn't just the bogus praise the WHO gives to China. It's also what they don't say about China. We never heard the WHO ever question what everyone knows is bogus data and information coming out of China. No pressure, no criticism, not even a hint of suggestion of what China could be doing better. Watch this.
During my visit to Beijing, I was so impressed in my meeting with President Xi.
As soon as the virus started, identification of the pathogen was a record time. And the other important element is the political commitment and your personal leadership, which we have been following.
That sounds alarming, doesn't it? The WHO is following the leader of China. It should be the other way around. The WHO should be the pandemic experts, and China should be taking the advice, recommendations, criticisms, suggestions from the WHO. And the WHO should be reporting to the world accurate information, data, best practices, and potential pitfalls from what has happened in China. The WHO certainly seems to be beholden to China.
And if it weren't for China's efforts, the number of cases outside China would have been very much higher.
Now, Tedros gives off a little smile while also showing his hands in submissive appeasement, which is seemingly to get you to feel like China is doing a lot of work for the world, despite him surely knowing that's not actually the case, given what we just observed previously from the WHO. Now, see if you can spot any possible deceptive body language here.
There is no reason for measures that unnecessarily interfere with international
travel and trade.
Yes, Tedros suddenly goes into massive hand-wringing. What he's saying makes him feel very uncomfortable and uncertain. But yet his spoken words are with certainty. He's incongruent. So his certainty in that statement is deceptive, knowing that international travel and trade should probably be significantly impacted to contain the virus. But as we also know, China didn't want their economy to be negatively impacted by travel and trade bans. So he seems to tell the world not to implement those bans to help their buddy China.
We call on all countries to share data, sequences, knowledge, and experience with WHO and the world. The only way we will defeat this outbreak is for all countries to work together in a spirit of solidarity.
Odd that he's saying that when China is doing the exact opposite of solidarity by not sharing information with the world and falsifying data. The WHO not only never mentions anything about China's fake data and false information, they congratulate China on doing everything seemingly perfectly. Tedros talks a lot about solidarity among nations.
Stand in solidarity, 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 with solidarity.
Solidarity, 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 global solidarity.
Global solidarity.
And if you want to have many more body bags, then you do it. If you don't want many more body bags, then you refrain from politicizing it.
However, it seems to be to divert the world, so we don't start questioning the initial story of where the virus came from and investigating its origins.
Multiple sources are telling Fox News today that the United States government now has high confidence it emanated from a virology lab in Wuhan, that because of lax safety protocols, an intern was infected, who later infected her boyfriend, and then went to the wet market in Wuhan, where it began to spread. Does that correspond with what you have heard from officials?
Well, I don't want to say that, John, but I will tell you more and more we're hearing the story, doing a very thorough examination of this horrible situation.
The general theory is that this virus comes from a species of bat jumping over to humans, and that it all started in the seafood market at Wuhan. But that theory is now looking very shaky. The bat was never a food source in Wuhan and was not sold in that market.
That's right, China's initial claim that COVID-19 just naturally appeared in humans isn't making any sense at all. Also, why isn't the WHO performing a massive investigation in Wuhan, China right now to find out the origins of coronavirus? If this randomly and naturally jumps from a bat to a human without any possible known connection between an infected human and a bat, we need to know more about its origin to prevent future devastating viruses like this. But yet the WHO is not doing a massive investigation in Wuhan, China to discover coronavirus's origins. No. The evidence just keeps building and building that this came from a lab. Watch.
Said maybe the virus came accidentally from researchers in Wuhan who'd been working on bat viruses. One such researcher at a nearby laboratory just 300 meters from the market.
That's right, the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its sister location, the Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention, is just a few hundred meters from the market where China claimed it all just naturally started. But what do they study at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Viruses, of course, but more specifically, rare coronaviruses.
If coronaviruses were the culprit, she remembers thinking, could they have come from our lab?
Yes, a scientist who worked at the Wuhan Institute of Virology came forward with the possibility that the virus came from their lab. So let's find the research she's done on coronaviruses, which would cause her to think that it possibly escaped from her Wuhan lab. Look! This is interesting. When we search the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health government website, published on November 30th, 2017. This research report is titled, Discovery of Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses Provides New Insight into the Origin of SARS Coronavirus. And look whose name is on it. That's right, it's the same Wuhan scientist that said it may have escaped from their lab. Now let's read parts of the report. In the abstract, this work provides new insight into the origin and evolution of SARS-CoV and highlights the necessity of preparedness for future emergence of SARS-like diseases. Now in the author's summary, increasing evidence has been gathered to support the bat origin of SARS coronavirus in the past decade. Our current study therefore offers a clearer picture on the evolutionary origin of SARS-CoV and highlights the risk of future emergence of SARS-like diseases. Based on this research report, they were studying actual bats by extracting viruses to anticipate the next SARS outbreak. But where was this research done? In this report, it gives credit to the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Well, later she posted on WeChat, "I swear with my life, the virus has nothing to do with the lab."
She swears on her life? I think we all know what happened. The communist police apparently got to her and told her to take it back or else. We're starting to hear stories of people secretly coming forward in China, but since China monitors everyone's communications, they found a creative way around China's communication block. It's to communicate using emojis and freaking Morse code.
If your code is to mean anything to others in the radio net, then you've got to send rhythmically.
There are several science articles from a few years back, such as this one, where the U.S. suspends risky SARS disease research. And it says, critics of such work argue that it's unnecessarily dangerous and risks accidentally releasing viruses with pandemic potential. This science article now, titled, Engineered Bat Virus Stirs Debate Over Risky Research. And the subheading says, lab-made coronavirus related to SARS can infect human cells. And the text says, scientists investigate a virus called SHCO14, which is found in horseshoe bats in China, the backbone of a SARS virus that had been adapted to grow in mice and to mimic human disease. Infected human airway cells, the necessary structure to bind to a key receptor on the cells and to infect them. All that sounds oddly familiar with what we're dealing with.
The State Department was incredibly worried about the procedures at this lab, that they were not following the strictest standards possible, and that something could somehow get loose.
The Wuhan Center for Disease Control and Prevention was using level 2 protocols when they should have been using level 4 protocols. And the U.S. Embassy was warned about biosecurity management problems. And the U.S. at one point even pulled out from working at their Wuhan labs. You may be wondering if any virus ever escaped from a Chinese lab before. Yes, it has. SARS escaped a Beijing lab twice, causing an outbreak. It's like, what the frig, guys? You can't be letting your little virus friends leaving your lab.
China has issued new regulations restricting the publication of research about coronavirus. Any paper that traces the origin of the virus should be strictly managed. And there's been a pattern of government officials at different levels punishing and trying to shut down doctors and researchers who've tried to sound the alarm about this deadly disease.
The pure fact that the WHO is not initiating a massive investigation into the origins of coronavirus speaks volumes. It's obvious why China doesn't want the origins of coronavirus investigated. But why doesn't the WHO? Two possibilities based on what we saw. Either one, they know China doesn't want an investigation of its origins, so they're bowing down to China again. Two, they know coronavirus escaped from a Chinese lab, and they don't want to get their buddy China in trouble. There is so much evidence coming to the surface proving that coronavirus escaped from a Wuhan lab. Here's the evidence summarized. Bats aren't sold in the Wuhan wet market, and people in Wuhan don't eat bat. The wet market was surely a quick and easy out for the Chinese government to point to as the origin of the virus. There are 2 virus and disease labs in Wuhan, China that study coronaviruses. Both are within a few hundred meters of where the first few cases of COVID-19 were found. In those labs, they've studied and continue to study bat coronaviruses to predict the next SARS outbreak. The U.S. Embassy was notified that they were not following proper biosecurity protocols. Wuhan lab insiders have raised concern that coronavirus could have escaped from their lab. WHO and certainly China are not looking into and even suppressing the research to find the origin of coronavirus, when we would expect both the WHO and China to search high and wide to prevent an outbreak like this from happening again. But nope, China and the WHO are doing the exact opposite and suppressing the investigation into COVID-19's origin. In February 2020, China passed new laws strengthening biosecurity in China's labs. You may be asking, could it have intentionally escaped from a Wuhan lab? I suppose that's sadly possible, whether that's done by a disgruntled employee or done by someone higher up in China's government, but there's no evidence right now to confirm that possibility. However, it currently seems that the Wuhan lab were extracting, studying, and lightly modifying bat coronaviruses to predict future SARS outbreaks. And it escaped because they were not following the necessary biosecurity protocols. Give this video a thumbs up if you think coronavirus escaped from a China lab. Give this video a thumbs down if you think it didn't escape from a China lab. Randomly, naturally started to occur in humans.
There are now calls to sue China for giving the world this coronavirus.
Now in the comments, what do you think should happen to the Chinese government for letting this escape out of their communist lab and then apparently trying to cover it up? Should they be sued? Should they not be allowed to operate virus labs anymore? Let everyone know in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on new body language and investigative videos. We always seem to shake up YouTube. And I'll see you at the top.